This call is now being recorded.
I guess we are good to go. So, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. I am Muskan, chairperson at CCET ACM Student Chapter. We at CCET ACM envision building a community of like minded people who love to code, collaborate, and have fun in a tech savvy society. Keeping same in the mind, we also invite interested student speakers to discuss and share their skills in their expertise with other individuals and technology associated people. Over the years, CCET ACM Student Chapter has been growing and involving more tech enthusiasts who share their experience and knowledge of their domain with other budding technocrats. Today's speakers are Akash Sharma and Manraj, undergrad students from Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Chandigarh College of Engineering and Technology, Chandigarh. We also have our faculty sponsor, Mr. Sudhakar Kumar, with us in the event. So I guess we can begin with it. Over to you.
Thank you, Muskan ma'am, for a wonderful introduction. Is my screen visible to all?
Oh, yes,
Yes,
it's
yes.
visible.
So welcome everyone to Flutter-Up 2021. So basically we will start with introduction to Flutter, and then we will go through a detailed analysis of Flutter framework. And after that, we will go through the benefits of using Flutter in mobile development. And after that, we will go through some basic concepts which we are going to use in Flutter using the Dart language. And after that, we will having a hands-on session about Flutter, creating your first BMI app. So starting with Flutter, Flutter is an open source framework developed by Google to eliminate the problem of creating beautiful user interfaces, multi-platform or cross-platform development, and using a single code base. So first of all, what is Flutter? As we said, Flutter is an open source application development SDK. What does a SDK mean? SDK is a software development kit. So Flutter is enabled with all the tools which are required for development of mobile applications and other applications also. Flutter utilizes both native and cross-platform development. What does a cross-platform development mean? So we have Android development and we have iOS development, and similarly we have web applications and desktop applications. So cross-platform development means covering more than one aspect of development. Like Flutter does, what Flutter does is Flutter can be utilized for both iOS and Android development with the same code. So what we will go through what the Flutter framework is. As we can see here, in the framework we have something called widgets. In Flutter, almost everything is every component is a widget. We build our applications through these widgets. Widgets are simple building blocks to develop an complex application or a project. It supports both material UIs and Cupertino. Cupertino is basically iOS style applications, and framework includes rendering and also animation, painting, and gesture detection with its engine built in C++. As we all know, C++ is very performance efficient language. So Flutter works really fast due to its engine developed in C++. And now we are up to benefits of using Flutter. First of all, we will go through all the points, and after that we will have a detailed discussion about each point. So first of all, one code base to all applications. And secondly, we have simple and flexible layout system. After that, we have constraints, hot reload, and access to source code. Among them, first, hot reload is most important feature along with one code base for all. And now let's look at what does it mean. So in one code base for all, as the statement says, a single code base for all kind of platforms. In Flutter, we basically code in Dart, and that Dart code is converted into native code of the applications. As we have Android and iOS, both have different native code. So what Flutter does is Flutter provide us ability to write a single code, and we do not have to maintain different versions of it. Usually what happens in native Android development is that we have two different code bases, one for iOS, one for Android, and engineers face difficulty to maintain consistency between them. Both iOS and Android application should be same with containing same features. So it requires a lot of resources and time to maintain them. So Flutter saves your time. And after that, we have simple and flexible layout system. As we said earlier, Flutter contains widgets. This inspiration of Google developers to create Flutter with the help of widgets is coming from React development. In React also, if you are familiar with React, React also contains various kind of widgets which we use for React development. It provides us easier way to build our user interfaces instead of writing XML code or any other kind of designing code. If we change the description of these widgets, for example, if a screen is containing a list and we want to add a drawer to it, so it just we just have to add that widget and it changes the configuration of widget tree, and everything gets settled out according to that. And after that, we are having the use of constraints. We are in the modern era in which we are not having simple user applications like in past days we were having the simple UIs like just a single screen UIs, but now we are having, as we can see here, they are a bit complex. As we can see here, there is a list and there is a drawer here, and similarly different rows, different columns and grids, etc. So it makes it difficult for users to different for difficult for developers also, developers to make them. So we use the concept of constraints. In constraints, we do not have to worry about the different screen sizes. A mobile may uh, all the Android devices do not have same size or same aspect ratio. So we do developers find it difficult to maintain that. So the concept of constraints came out. Web developers have already solved this problem because web developers uh, do not have to take care about like change in screen size. This is already taken care of. So Flutter takes inspiration from web development and creates the widgets like rows, columns, stacks, padding, center, and constraints to implement them in mobile application development. And the most important feature is hot reload. What hot reload does is it prevents a lot of time. Basically, as we can see here, we change the color red and save the file. It immediately changes to red color. So the thing is, we do not have to render everything from beginning, because if we do so, we waste a lot of time, and this is the worst thing developers hate to do. So what hot reload does is it injects the updated source code files into the Dart virtual machine. Basically, it gives the code to Dart virtual machine, which is changed. And after that, Dart virtual machine does that, it updates the classes to the newer versions. And those new changes are only updated on the screen. The whole main function is not re-executed or rerun. We do not rerun the main function. So we just change what actually we did change in the code. We do not reinitialize our whole code. And at last, we are having the access to source code. As earlier mentioned, Flutter is an open source framework. So all the code is written by the Google developers and it is available for us for free. For example, I am writing a code and I want to see how a button widget is implemented. What I can do is I just have to click on the button widget. A code will open. I can just see the implementation of the button and how the Google developer wrote it. And if I want to customize it according to my way, I can customize it in any ways I want. And also it is best way to learn because the Google developer wrote that code in a very efficient way as possible to him, so we can learn from it also. And also because Google is a tech giant, there is a broad community out there to help you also if you stuck at some point during your development journey. Now we are at the question how one code cover all, like we have here iOS, web, desktop, and also Android. How one Flutter code base covers all the aspects. So what happens in native Android development? For example, here we have Android and here we have iOS. Usually what happens is a native code directly interact with the platform. Platform is your mobile device or any other application which is utilizing the application. So it directly interact with the application. So we have a different code base. For example, we have a different code for Android for the same application and different code for iOS. The thing is, it is difficult to maintain consistency among them, and also they are quite slow because the rendering takes place. All the rendering we wrote an XML code and all kind of logic, it gets rendered at the platform only in both native development sections in Android as well as iOS. So it results in lag in a we can say a delay in time, which decreases the performance of our application. So, what are other ways other than Flutter which we can use to solve this problem? So, first of all, is we have a simple code base, a single code base, and we can use web views. Basically, what happens in web views that our native code is converted into a HTML screen, and that HTML screen is displayed on our canvas or on our platform. Our platform's screen is basically our canvas. But in this solution, we have a problem that we have to convert in our HTML code, and the time which is taken in this conversion is decreasing our performance. And after that, we are having our bridge method. In bridge method, what happens is we take an intermediate language, and that intermediate language will help us to convert our native code to platform oriented code. For example, we can use the JavaScript as the code between our web app and our native we code which we have written. So this also results in decrease in performance because we have to maintain this bridge. We have first to convert our code into a JavaScript code, and then this JavaScript code will interact with our platform and its services. Services are like our phone's camera, location, sensors, everything like that. So how Flutter solves it? So basically what happens that in Flutter framework, developers have given us an engine, which we previously said that we have a C++ engine. And this engine does the rendering work on itself rather than doing the rendering on our platform. So all the rendering takes place in our Flutter app, and then it got implemented on our platform. So Flutter app just needs the platform's canvas and events to take place. And it just requires the normal services which every platform provides. So there is no lag in performance because we are rendering the things in our app only, and we are just taking the screen of the platform. And also this rendering is very fast because of Flutter. Flutter Engine, which is made in C++. And after that, why using Flutter for mobile development? Um, the reasons which we discussed about the performance and features provided to us by Flutter are the major reasons for using the Flutter for mobile development. Also, the Flutter provides better performance, smoother animation, and beautiful designing, because in Flutter the widgets are pre-designed by Google developers, which in which they included the best UIs as they could be. Like they have Material UIs and Cupertino UIs, which are developed by the developers expert in the UI work. So they provide you with all that kit inside your Flutter package. And also the Flutter is a very new language, and as we can see according to the survey, in 2019 the most fastest growing programming languages were Dart, because Dart was used in Flutter to write the Flutter applications. So now we come to point, what is Dart and why Dart is used as a programming language in Flutter. Why Flutter haven't utilized the other languages like Java, C++, or Python, which were already that much famous in our developer world. So Flutter is also developed, Dart is also developed by the Google, It's basically correspond to C language and having the syntax like C, mixture of C, C++, Java, Python, and JavaScript. So the feature included in Dart is that it is capable of object allocation as our C++ has, and also garbage collection without any locks, which improves the performance and does not need preemptive scheduling or any kind of shared memory. And also one of the biggest reason is that to use the developer, and we do not have to write any XML or JSX code. Basically what happens in our native Android development, we have to create a UI using XML, JSX, or any kind of other language, designing language. We first have to design a screen. And after that, we have to link all these designing components to the logic, which is written in Java or Kotlin, Swift, depending upon what kind of thing you are using, what kind of platform you are developing your application. In what Dart, we do not have to do that kind of thing because it already provides us with the widgets. We can directly use the widgets, and it is easy to imagine what our application will look like because we are nesting the widgets, or a widget could be a child of a parent widget or it could be an independent widget. So it is very easy to visualize and effortless development. So these could not be only reasons to use Dart. The most major reason and most important reason is compilation. Basically, the hot reload feature does not work due to Dart virtual machine only. Dart virtual machine is assisted by just-in-time compilation. This just-in-time compilation is done during the development process. In just-in-time compilation, as the name suggests, as the change implemented, compile it and run it. And during the deploy phase, ahead of time compilation takes place. As we can read here, in development mode, Flutter is compiled just in time. We utilize JIT plus virtual machine, just in time compilation along with the virtual machine, our Dart virtual machine, to compile our code. But in case of deployment, during the deploy, we use ahead of time compilation plus runtime to convert it into a native code, which could be x64 or ARM, depending upon the platform which we are using. So in release mode, your code is compiled as ahead of time to native code. For example, we have written our code in Dart language and it will be converted to the native language of the platform, which platform uses. And after that, it provides us better performance because the development phase needs a lot of time, and this time is saved by using the just-in-time compilation, because compilation takes place in no time, and developers like that thing because they can try out different kind of things in a short time rather than implementing a change and then take it and then wait for it to compile and then showing up on the screen. So also during the ahead of time compilation, it minimizes the size and remove other stuff that are useful in developer mode, but not during the deploy mode, because there are some features which could be helpful in developer mode. For example, like we can see different widgets nesting in our Flutter framework, but these are not useful features during the deployment, because in deploy we just have to give a concise and small size application to our users which they could easily download and start using. So ahead of time compilation helps in that. And now we are moving towards our next section, which is basics of Dart. So as I previously said, the syntax of Dart is very similar to C language. So we will see that in a bit. We will do the Dart code, which will be utilized during our hands-on session. So now we have some basic features of Dart, like it supports browser, open source. Dart is also open source, by the way, and object oriented, easy to learn. Easy to learn is the most important feature. Like we can, if we know any kind of programming language, it would be very easy for us to learn it because it corresponds to almost every kind of language. The most important concept which is utilized during the application development from Dart is inheritance. There are four kind of inheritance. First of all is single inheritance. In single inheritance, we have a parent and we have a child class and a parent class. Our child class inherits all the features from its parent class. This is called a single inheritance. Multiple inheritance is not supported in Dart because multiple inheritance, what happens is that uh, it was criticized by developers that it is not that much useful during the development process and is not utilized anywhere. So what is the meaning of including it into the new language? So it is not supported in Dart language. Ahead we have multi-level inheritance. When a class inherits another child, then then this inheritance occurs. So basically what it means that we have a parent class, we have a child class, and then we have a grandchild class. So child class inherits the features from parent class, and that grandchild class inherits its features from parent class. So there are multiple levels of inheritance. First, child class inherits the features from parent class, and then grandchild class also inherits the feature from child class. After that, we are having hierarchical inheritance, in which more than one class inherits features from other class. Now we will see it in the code. As we can see here, we are having single inheritance. In single inheritance, this is our main function, and we are having our parent class. Parent class contains a variable money and a method or function which is named as get value. It is inherited by for inheritance in Dart we use the extends keyword. This extend keyword signifies that son is inheriting father class. Basically means that son is inheriting all the features or all the functionalities of father class into it. uh, if you want to code along with me, you just have to write Dart pad, and it will open the official development environment which is provided by the Dart developers or Google. So if you want to code along with me, you can open it and we can start doing the Dart programming together. So first of all, we are having our main function. In every language, the main function always look like this. It do not have any return type, so we are having it as void, and then we have our main function after parenthesis. And here we are having our class parent. So this class is a keyword, and after that we are having the parent as the name of class. We can name it anything, like we can name it as Flutter, any kind which you want. And after that it contains some variables. So Dart also supports the variables like integer, double, strings, and also there is a data type named as var, and this var is a variable data type. This data type takes any kind of variables. For example, if I do var I is equal to 10, then this var will become int, because if I highlight this I, As you can see here, this is saying int I, which implies that this var is considered as an integer. But if I change here as string, now if again I highlight it, it says string I, which means that this var is a variable type. So we can use it here. And after that, we are having our functions. Now in Dart, we can give a return type if we want, but it's not compulsory to give it a return type, because if we do not give any return type by ourselves, it automatically assumes it to be a type called dynamic. Let me show you. For example, if we say display function, and this is the body of display function, if I click on it, it says dynamic display. So it automatically considers its type to be dynamic, which implies that it will be automatically converted in any return type which it will return. But means it is dynamic, it can change to any, like our variable did. So now we will write a print statement here. This corresponds to the syntax of Python. We just write a print with the parenthesis, and after that we write hello Flutter. And to print a variable in Flutter, we have to write $sign and after that the name of variable. This is the syntax to print a variable in Flutter. Like we did in C, what we write is %d. %d, after that we have to write the variable name. But in this case, we have to write dollar and the variable we want to print. So this is our class named as Flutter containing a variable I along with a method named as display. And after that, we will create a second class named as, if we name it as Dart, and we want to inherit the features. Features in the sense like I want to use I variable and display function inside this class. Then I have to write class keyword, the name of class, and extends keyword. This extend keyword signifies that we are using this class methods and variables inside our Dart class, and we write the name. Flutter. Now we can declare its variable also. For example, if I write j is equal to 10. So void main is basically the main function where we will call we will create the objects of various classes. Every program execution starts from main. If your program do not contain any main function, your program will never execute. So basically it is void main function which will start the program execution. Let me complete the code, then I will explain what does the main function do. If I leave it like that, I just declared a variable named as j is equal to 10. And now, if I want to create the object of this Dart class, I will write Dart. This is the type of object which I want to create, and then the name of object. You can take any. I am taking object as object or obj as object, and after that you have to write new keyword along with the class name with a set of parentheses. This new keyword was mandatory before Dart 2.0, but after the second version of Dart, this new keyword is no more required. You can basically write this also. in this ID, this line, you can hopefully you can see it like object. Below this object we have a line. This signifies that you are not using obj anywhere. Like we have Flutter, but we haven't used this class anywhere, so this thing comes into play. Now if I write dot sorry obj dot, so you can see here obj dot j is suggesting me that you have variable j which we declared inside this class named as dot. We have declared j here, so we can access it, but we can also access I also, along with our function display, which were present in flutter class. So if I write display and run this code, we get our result as hello flutter string. So hello flutter came from here, and string is the value which we set, which we gave to I. The thing is that we never declared the display function inside our class named as dot, but we can access it in our main function by creating the object of child class, which is dot here, by inheriting the parent class to the child class. So this is the single inheritance. And after that, we are having our multi-level inheritance. What happens in multi-level inheritance is that we have a parent class, we have a child class, and we have a grandchild class. So basically there are three classes. One inherits, for example, child class inherits parent class, and after that grandchild class inherits child class. So this results in multi levels of inheritance. If we work on the same example, we can use, for example, class. If I give it a name as grandchild and use the extend keyword to inherit the dart class, I will write dart, and then I have to write the definition of this class here. For example, if I write where k is equal to 30, and now if I create the object of this class, for example, if I write grandchild, uh, where can also accommodate this thing. If I write here where object's name obj is equal to new grandchild, then this where automatically gets converted into this grandchild type. So where is a generic variable, we can say. And also we use obj dot, and see we can access I, j, and k, which are three different variables declared in three different classes, but we can access them due to multi levels of inheritance. So if I use display function here, then we can use it. The same result will come here. As you can see, the same result is here. And after that, we are having our hierarchical inheritance. In this kind of inheritance, there is a parent class and there are two child classes in which the son extends father, which implies that son inherits father class into it, and daughter class also inherits the features of father class into it. If we write its code also, if we write class dot to here and extends Flutter Engine, this results that the dart and dart2, both these classes are inheriting Flutter into it. As we can see here, both are inheriting Flutter. So this results in our hierarchical inheritance. The result will be same as we did previously, but we just have to change the name here. Dart2 here. Now if I run it, the result is same. And after that, after inheritance, we are having something called anonymous functions. The anonymous function, as the name suggests, it is a function without any name. Normally what we see is that we have a function. It first has its return type, and after that it has its name. Then we have the parameters which we want to give to our function, and after parenthesis we are having the set of statements which we want to write. But anonymous functions, everything is same as normal functions, but we do not write any name of the function. As we can see here in the example, we are having a list of students which is containing Sonam, Rahul and Sumit, and we are using a method of list which is for each. This for each is same as our for loop running up to the size of this list. For example, for instance, this loop will run 3 times. For this means for each variable inside the list. So this is our anonymous function. This is the parameter, values the parameter. As we can see the syntax of anonymous function, first we have the parameter list, and after that we having the set of statements which are to be executed in that function. So we have parenthesis and our parameter, and after that we are having our execution statement which is instruction print. And similarly, if we have in our function, we could have a set of instructions or a single instruction. If we have a set of instructions, we have to write parentheses here, like we have here 2 parentheses opening and closing. But in case of a single statement, we can use the arrow operator. If we try to write in a code, we will rewrite our code. I declare void main here, and in our main function we create a list which is named as containing the variables as flutter art and hello. This is our list, and in this list, if we use a function named as for each, in our for each function we create an anonymous function which will be having the argument as value, and this value argument is default argument which implies that value is this these variables. It will automatically iterate over them, like we have in our C++. We are having the iterator which iterate over the complete vector or a list. Similarly, this for each function iterates over this complete list, and we can have a set of parentheses, and after that we have our print statement, value is equal to and percent value. Now if I run it, it gives us value is equal to flutter dart and hello. If we have a single statement, like we said we will use arrow operator, we can use arrow operator here. printing the same thing, value is equal to value. Now if I run it, we will get a same result. But if I try to write multiple instructions here, for example, we can see a red line here. This implies that it will throw an error if we try to execute this statement. So after anonymous functions, we are having our method overriding. In method overriding, we have a class. Another class inherits the features from first class, which is superclass. And the second, which inherits the features from superclass, is subclass. For in inheritance, we just inherit all the features and use them as it is in our class. But in case of overriding, if we want to change the display function, for example, here display function print I am superclass, but we want that in subclass it should print I am subclass, so we override the function. So in overriding, we change the implementation of a function which was previously present in superclass. If we coded it here, we create a class named as superclass, and it contains the function named as display. And after that, in display function, we have a print statement which says
Manraj, sorry to interrupt you, but a student asked a doubt. Anonymous function versus arrow.
uh, anonymous function versus arrow. Basically, anonymous function is a function without any name. Arrow is not a function. Arrow is a kind of operator which we write there. Arrow is basically if we have a different set of statements, then we use our parenthesis as usual, like this. We have parenthesis opening and closing to execute multiple statements. But in case of a single statement, like if this function contains a single statement, then we write the function and print statement, uh, hello flutter, like this. So this is a kind of operator, it's not a complete function. So there is no comparison between them because anonymous function is a type of function, but that second thing is an operator. It's not a complete function. See, we can give any. It's not the property of anonymous function. Like I have used arrow operator here also because our function was containing a single line. So I implemented using arrow operator. I just wrote print statement. So it can be utilized anywhere, but anonymous functions is a kind of function. So there is no comparison between them. Any further question?
No, Manraj, you can carry on.
So after that, we are having a subclass. In subclass, we are having our, we will override this display function. So we write @ override, and after that we write the name of the function which we want to override. And after that we write our print statement. For example, if I write hello dot, and after that similarly we will as usual create our object of subclass is equal to new subclass. and calling the function display. And now if I run it, I will get this statement as hello dot, as we got here hello dot. So this was the overriding. And after that, we are having our implicit interfacing. Uh, Interfacing means that we are having a class in which contains some methods implemented uh, or unimplemented methods. It is like an abstract class. For example, abstract class only contains the promise that these will be implemented in another class, or further ahead they will be implemented. So the difference between inheritance and implements keyword is that it gives a promise that every function or every method which is created in this father class will be implemented in daughter class or child class. Uh, it will be very much clear by an example. For example, if I use the same example, superclass and our subclass. If I write a function here named as uh, display, if I write display 2 here and after that I write a print statement here as we did, for example, simply a hello, and I use the keyword as implements. So what a subclass will implement? Subclass will implement our superclass. So now if I run it, it will throw us an error because superclass was containing two functions named as display and display2. We gave it a promise that we will implement superclass inside our subclass, but we only implemented our display function. So this results in the we do not fulfilled our promise that we will implement this function also. So it gives us a error saying that subclass implements the superclass. This is saying that superclass dot display 2 is defined here, but we do not define it here also in our subclass. But I write the display2 function here also and I change the statement here, string will be here, and now if I execute it, it will be executed perfectly. So this implements is a promise that if we left remain any implementation in the superclass, then subclass which is implementing that superclass will surely implement that function or that methods. And after that, we are having our final and const keyword. So final keyword is used to hard code the values or variables which cannot be altered in the future, neither any kind of operation performed on the variable. For example, this is the final variable I cannot reassign it, or I can't do any kind of operation, any kind of arithmetic operation, or which could change its value. Those all operations could not be performed on it. But second keyword is const keyword. This const keyword behave exactly like the final keyword. The only difference between the final and const keyword is that const makes the variable constant from compile time only. Using the const on an object makes the object entire deep state strictly fixed at the compile time, and it gets frozen and completely immutable. Means simply we can't change const also, but it is a compile time. And after that we are having our stateless and stateful. So as Akash will code, you will hear the term stateful and stateless widget. So basically what happens if we have a widget we change its any child, or for example a widget is containing another widget. For example, a screen is a scaffold. Basically scaffold is a screen and it's containing a widget named as button. If button is a stateless widget, if we implement any change in that, it will not be immediately seen on the screen because it is a stateless widget. And similarly, the stateful widget implements the change, it will be rendered automatically with the input data. Now, just a basic overview of widgets. What are widgets? Widgets are central class hierarchy in the Flutter framework. So as we earlier said, everything in Flutter is a widget. So there are some widgets which we have taken here. First of all is scaffold. Scaffold contains covers the whole screen. So basically you have your canvas and you can implement everything on canvas, or you can use a container named as scaffold to contain everything inside it. After that we have the app bar. App bar have various kind of properties or childs named as leadings, title, action, bottom, flexible. And after that we have text, rich text, columns, rows, surface area, containers, buttons. These all will be utilized during the hands-on session, which will be taking place in 2 or 3 minutes. Now we have Akash with us to help you to make your first Flutter app. Along with him, app will be a BMI calculator containing a beautiful UI, as you can see here, containing different rows and columns and set of instructions and logic we will use to calculate the BMI. And the second screen will display our result. If we want to recalculate, we can click on that. So now we will have a 5 to 10 minutes break, and after that we will continue. You can set up your Android Studio, or you can go to flutlab.io. If I want to show you that, flutlab.io. If you want to see it, get started. So this is the environment which is provided online other than the Android Studio. You can use here also. So here you can write your code in main.dart, and this is the button where you can build your app, and emulator will show up here. If you have Android Studio, it is well and good. So over to you, Akash.
So let's have a break of 5 minutes. Till now, you can open your Android Studio IDE. So before we start into the coding, let us just quickly see what we are going to code today. So basically, this is a simple BMI calculator app. As you can see, it is a bit responsive because if I click or touch the male or any female card, then you can see the color changes. And this is a beautiful slider widget, which is very user interactive. And here is a weight and age buttons and displays. You can see when I calculate this next screen will pop up, which displays the BMI and have a beautiful text. So what are the components of these apps? So before we make this app, we have to know what are the general component of any app. So let me share my screen. So here you can yes so you here you can see this is a general app that we are going to make. But before we make this app, we should know what are the general components of any app. For example, here I have another example of a app. Just let me show you. So as you can see, this is a general Dribble. I took this design from Dribble. This is a basic app. So how you should define the body of an app? So in Flutter, everything is basically a row or a column. There are stacks, but let's take a general discussion. There are rows and columns. For example, here you can see this is a list. This is a list. Basically, this is a row. Another, the popular show, it is a row, and recommended show, this is a row. In row, we have a list. So here you first of all you have to identify where to use rows and where to use column in a basic Flutter app. For example, here in our app, I show you. So here in our app, you can first of all you have to identify the rows and columns, and based on this division, you should start coding. For example, here you can see three rows. The first row has two divisions. These two cards that look identical, but these are divisions of the first row. The second row do not have any division, and the third row has two division. So basically, first of all, you have to identify number of rows and columns. After that, you have to identify further divisions, like this third row has further division like weight, this text, and the third row of the third row has two more division which contain two buttons. So this is the body general structure of an app which we going to code. So first of all, you have to identify this. The next step is you have to identify some basic functionalities. For example, your app has a two screen. Your app has a what navigation you're going to follow. For example, from this screen, when you click calculate button, you will lands on the next screen. So these are the general specification of any app. But let's open our ID, Android Studio ID. So if you guys opening this first time, you will create a new Flutter project where you will set the SDK path. It is default in my case, and you will name your app. So let just name it quickly test 100, and you will finish. So Android Studio will make the project for our app. So let this finish. So as you can see, the project has been completed. So in this project, you should understand the project structure first. In the project structure, just a moment. So in the project structure, you have to understand what file do you have. So in Android Studio, this project structure is common in every Android app. So here are the main components. Like we have a pubspec file, which we are going to discuss later. We have a lib folder in which our main Dart files are there. Dart basics, as Manraj already covered these Dart basic, so we'll get this on later. We have Android folder. Here we have app folder, and in the app folder we have a main folder. In the main folder there is a Android manifest.xml which contain all the permissions that our app uses. For example, it uses internet permission, location permissions, or storage permissions, etc. This is the Gradle. This is the build level Gradle, which basically Gradle basically do convert our code to the real application file or real app with the app extension file. So this is a Gradle file. Here it is a main.dart file where we going to code our app, and it is the pubspec.yaml file. In pubspec.yaml file, we list all the dependencies. For example, our Flutter app will depend on Flutter lints. It is a package. It uses a material design. So we have to add these packages to pubspec.yaml file before we use them. It is very important to pay attention to these dependencies. So let's get to code. So here we have main.dart file. So since this is the first Flutter project, Android Studio already coded some of the basic things like it create a stateless widget, and it also created a stateful widget, which I will discuss what are the stateless and stateful widgets and how we use them. So it is a stateful widget and which contains a scaffold, which contains an app bar. These are basically the widgets. This is the basic structure of any app, which Android Studio already coded for us, so that we don't have to waste our time on these simple things which already we have to use many times. There is a floating action button too. So this is the project, but let's just jump on what we are going to. So we are going to see the communication between multi-screen app. This is the basic thing which use in all the app today that we use today. So let's code and let's see how a simple two-screen app, and see how the communication work. So let me open a new project. So this is the new Flutter project that I'm going to show. As you can see, the project structure is very much similar, but we are going to follow some standards here. For example, we don't have to code in main.dart file. We just call a function over here, and we going to code in this function. For example, here I created a screen one. Here I will start coding. So before you code any screen, you have to import the material design. This is a general design because this contain all the packages in the Flutter, like stateful and stateless widget, etc. So you have to decide where to use stateless and stateful widgets. For example, in this app, I think the most of the work will be related to the stateless widget. I will tell you when to use stateless and when to use stateful and what are the set state functions. So let's just basically create a stateless widget here. Let's name this screen one. Here I don't have to use key, so I'm going to remove this. This returns a container, but you do not have to return a container. You always have to return a scaffold, because everything is in the scaffold. So let's return a scaffold. And in the scaffold there are basic properties like there is an app bar. It is not in the camel case. So in the app bar, we have an app bar function in which we describe our title. Title is basically a text. So we are going to use text widget. In the text widget, we just simply give a text like this is the screen one. This is a basic text. So this is the scaffold, and scaffold after the text, after this app bar, scaffold has a body which contain all the body of our code. So this is the body, and in the body here we just going to simply return a raised button. I will tell you all these widgets. For example, the work of the center widget is basically it center all the widgets which come inside this to the center of your screen. This identify itself the what is the center of your screen of which Android phone or which device you're using. It automatically finds the center and centers all the widget inside it. So here, as you can see, the child is the raised button because we just want a button. So in the raised button, we are going to use some properties. For example, in the raised button, what should happen if you press that button? So there is a function called onPressed. So what this onPress do? This automatically identify whenever you users presses this button, this function is called, and this is an anonymous function. So as you can see, I just know, I should know the basic syntax. For example, on press, I will code this later. Also, this has a child, which is a simple text widget. So as you can see, this is the basic app which contains just a raised button which has a child text. In this text, I will use something like text like press to go to screen to. And I also here I will define you how to style some widgets. For example, this is the default text if I leave this as it is, but I want some styling here. So how I use styling? So you have to use style. Here I am designing a text, so I will use a text style. In the text style, I will define properties. For example, as you can see, when you hover this, you can see there are a lot of properties like colors. You can see font weight, font style. You can even change the foreground or backgrounds paint. You can define the baseline, etc. So let's just keep things simple, and we just define font size. Font size, let it to be 16. 16 it's a pixel. And here we can also use font weight. Font weight basically bolds the size, bolds the text. Here I'm using let's say W600. It will be good. Basically, the font weight will define. There are some weight. For example, weight 100, weight 200. This define how much the text should have a weight. So I just use a W600. That means it has a weight of 600 according to the library. For example, if I control or command click this font weight, I will land to the code here. Here you can see all the code that how Flutter is written. This is the base code of the file. Since it is open source, all the code is available. You can see there are the weights, and it's a property is defined in this class. So now also I'm going to set the on press. So what should happen when the button is pressed? I should navigate to another screen. So how this is done? This is done using a push function or a pop function. Push will push something to this present screen. For example, there's a URL and you have to push that URL. So that is a push function, and pop function will pop that thing that is initially pushed into the stack of the screen. So here I am going to use a
Sorry to interrupt, Akash. Viren is asking about what is a font weight.
font weight is basically how much you want your text to be bold. For example, don't confuse with this. You can also write like font weight dot bold. This basically bolds your text on the screen. Font weight, I use W properties because font weight dot bold is the maximum weight that a font has. Basically, this is a property of a text that how wide your text should be. So I was on the on press function. On press function, I have to use push as I described. So there's a navigator dot push. So this is a navigator function. Navigator dot push. In the push function, I have to give context, which is inherited from the stateless widget itself. What is a context? Context is basically it defines from where this function is called in the stack, in the screen of the stacks. So this is a context. I have to give this context, and I have to give this route. For example, I will route this to URL, or here in my case, I will route this to another screen. So how I call another screen? So here I have to use material page route. This is basically an inbuilt function. Yes, which requires a builder. And as you can see, this builder, this builder will build the screen for you. So this builder is very important, and I have to give the builder as a context. And in this context, just a second, I have to call the screen or my another screen. For example, I will call this screen 2 here. Screen 2. This is a function. Basically, screen 1 is also a function. Similarly, the screen 2 is also a function. But here, I will tell you how these things work, because here the screen 2, as you can see, I am not allowed to use the screen 2 because I did not import this screen till now. So first import this screen. So from here you can see this screen is already imported as just a second. So after you import your screen, you have to pass, if you want to pass some data to your screen, then you should pass the data. For example, here in our case, we have to pass, just a second. So here we have to pass the data. For example, the weight is this, the age is this, so that the screen can calculate the real and actual BMI of the user. So this is the basic syntax of how a new page should work. And in the screen 2, as you can see, in the screen 2, you have if you want to accept some data, you have to you have to use constructor. Basically, this is a function, and the function should accept the data only through the constructors. So as you can see, this is the proper syntax of the navigation to another screen. So now let's this is the basic thing which uses in app, which is used in every app. So now you guys know how to pass the another screen. Now we will code how to create the body of an app. For example, here you can see this columns and this row, and by the end we will able to create this thing which has proper division as or this app has. And after that we will code the details of our app, and some functionalities we'll going to code some functionalities too, because as in the new project, I have another project in which I'm going to code the body of an app. So in this project, I'm going to code the body of an app. For example, this main.dart file is again very similar, just a screen 0, and the screen 0 is present here, which has no code. This I will explain you later why this below code reusable card is coded already. So this is another Flutter project which has a similar structure, which follows the similar structure of an Android app. So now this we too have to code the here as you can see, scaffold is already present. We just have to code the details. For example, we have to use rows or columns, etc. So yes, so in the scaffold we did not define the body. So let's go from the body. In the body, here as you can see, I will define the structure as there is a single column. Just see, yes, so there is a single column here, and in this column there are further division. This is the row 1, this is the row 2, and this whole is the row 3. And in this rows we have further division. So let's first code these rows. So here, as I described, we have a column. Yes, so here we have a simple column. In the column, there are two properties which are very important to understand. We are not going to use this property, but these are very, very useful and very, very handy. A column has a two axes. First one is the cross axis alignment, and second one is the main axis alignment. For a row, this is a row, this is a column. So for a column, this is the main axis alignment, and this is the cross axis alignment. As you can see, the main axis alignment is always along the column, and cross axis is cross which cuts the column into two halves. Again, the row has similar. The main axis alignment is along the row, and the cross axis which cut the row into two parts. So these two properties are very handy and very easy to understand. These are very confusing too. For example, the cross axis for the row is not the same as cross axis for the column. This is very important to understand. So here we are. We have a column in which we have a children. Notice that there are these things have two things. One is the children and another thing is child. Column can have multiple childs, so we have to use children here. We cannot use child here, even though if we are using a single widget, but still we have to use the children widget here. So in the children, we have to use the row. So in the row, this is the row 1, this is the row 2, and here we have row 3. So till now we have 3 rows, and now what is an we are going to use the expanded widget. Just similar, earlier we see center widget. Here there is another widget which is an expanded widget. What expanded widget do? Expanded widget allow the children to take the whole portion of the screen. For example, this is a single container which is expanded in the whole screen, which with some margin which we define in the details, but it is expanded in the whole screen. Even if my I change my device to the web view, this widget will change to the whole screen of my app. So this is basically the use of expanded widget, which allow the widget to expand. So here I use the expanded widget in the row. Similarly, I just copy this because this code is same. So now we have a row with an expanded widget. Now inside the first row, as you can see, inside the first row we have two portions. So we have two containers in this row. As you can see, row 2 has a children because it can contain multiple things. Now we are using a container, which container is very important and very useful in Flutter. Container is another widget just like rows and column, but containers contain a specific child. Here, if you can see, we have child, not children property. If I use children, it will throw me some error because this has a child property, not the children property. So it is a basically container. We going to code details in the next part where we going to code the details. So this is a container, and this container is too in the expanded form. So here I use expanded again, expanded widget, and this container is again the same as the last one. Just a second. So the row has two children. This one is the first children, expanded widget, which is a children, another which contains the same thing. Because as you can see, there are two division. So there are two container. This is the container first, and this is the container second. These are present in the row 1. This is a complete row. So this is the basic division of the first row. Similarly, the third row is very exactly similar to the first row, because here you can see it follows the similar structure. So this is the third row because it is similar. Now the second row is just contains a container. So rather than row, I can directly use a container here because this has a single child. Now we are going to code some details. For example, these contain now it is very important to understand your code should not be similar many your code should not be repeated many times. For example, this row and this row are exactly same, and these containers are in expanded widget are used multiple times. For example, here it is expanded, here it is same, here it is same, and here it is same. So all these things are same. Rather than code that container again and again times, so what we should follow is we should extract this container into a function and call that function many times. So this is a much practical approach which we follow in all the programming languages. For example, in C++ and C, you use what is a function and how where to use function you should know. So here we will extract this, and here I already extracted this function as a reusable card, which is basically the same container. As you can see, this is the same container, but it has some properties predefined. For example, I have a color, I have a child property, and I have a on press function, because when I press this, earlier I showed you, when I press this the color is changed, which give user a haptic feedback that he selected the male card or the female card, which gives a feedback. So this on press functionality should be code, because this detects the whenever the widget is pressed, this is used to detect. So I'm going to use this reusable card in place of these containers. So here, this is the way I will tell you. So here, as you can see, this is an expanded widget which has a child reusable card, which is nothing but this. And in the reusable card, there is a card child which is a container, just like similar, which is very similar to the earlier portion, which has two functionalities: on press and color. Now we going to code these details later when we going to fill the container with the text, because these container contains a text or and an icon. This container contains weights and a number, which will increase when we press the button. So let's just do the same thing. So by the time being, I'm going to run this application so that you guys can see what we coded till now exactly on an Android phone. So I'm going to use here Android debugging function. As I connected my Android device, here it is listed, and when I click the run, it will run the app. This will take a little time, because the Android Studio need to build the whole application here. So till it take time, I will going to explain you what are the Flutter inspector and what are the Flutter performance here. So let this app run. Here you can see it is Gradle is running. So till this app build, I will explain you what we are going to code now. As since this portion, this body portion is completed, this body portion is completed now. Now this thing is coded. Now we have to code the details in our app. So to code some details, we should know what widget we should use. For example, this is an icon widget. This is a mail widget. The app is running. Yes, so the app is completely installed. Now let me share the screen. So as you can see, we successfully coded this whole screen here. So this was our first part, that we made the basic structure. This is very similar in all the application that you're going to make, because in application you first have to make the body structure. I give you example, other example of this app. So to make this app, as you can see on my laptop screen, just let me resume the screen. So as you can see on my screen, I give you another example of this app. In this app, you first have to define the basic structures. Like this is a row, this is a row, this is a bottom navigation bar, which is inside, which is just a scaffold property, just like an app bar. There is a bottom navigation bar. So which is a little complicated for this event. For example, this has multiple screen navigations. Here you have a row basically, which is a list of different categories. Here you too have a row which is a list of popular shows. Here you have a row of a recommended shows. So this is a body coding, because you have to code the body before you make your first app. So till now I'm going to explain you some inspector. For example, this is the Flutter inspector, which basically inspect your whole application and whole widget tree. For example, here we have columns, we have rows. This is easier to navigate, and which it is very useful. It is very handy too, which define all the things. And also there is a Flutter performance, which defines you all the rendering times and all the memory usage that your app is going to use, etc. So these are very handy and very important to understand. Now we since we completely coded this whole body structure, now let's jump to another screen where we going to code the details. So just a second, I am going to open another project. So this is the file where we going to code the details of an app. So this is the basic app. Just like before, I have a main.dart file which is just a single screen. In the This is the first screen. I will explain you and I will code you. I will help you to code this screen, which basically it has since it created another function which is you nothing but which takes the height and weight of a user, and which gives the result and a text. For example, if your BMI is over than 25, you are overweight. This is a text for the overweight. You have higher than normal body weight, etc., which is displayed in your app. So this is a basic function and class, which is the brain of our app that code and calculate the values according to the height and weight of a user. So I will explain you what are these constant.dart file, which is a general developers practice, because when I will tell you about all these constants in when we are going to code. And these are just a two screen input screen, which follow the similar body structure as this one, and it is a result screen, which will be a challenge because I will completely explain you the input screen, so it is really easy to code this result page. So I think I missed a thing because I explain you how to code I explain you how to code the proper screens. Now one thing is left, how you pass the data from one screen to another screen. So to pass some data, you have, for example, we have a data. We have integer x, which we define as 10. So this integer x is present in screen 1, but this is not present in screen 2. So how we get this x from screen 1 to screen 2? So basically this is a general method. First of all, we have to accept this integer here. We have to create another variable here. For example, here we created a int y, and this int should be, let's say this is a final int y. So whenever you created this, you already got some error like final variable must be initialized. So when you press this, you will get an option to create a constructor. This option is basically alt enter, or in case of Windows, and option enter in case of a Mac. So here you can create the constructor, which already create a constructor for you. Now you have to pass this data, and this data should follow a basic syntax. For example, here in the screen, you have to pass this data just a second. Yes, I think so I am missing a bracket. So now it is not an error. It should be like this. So yes, the error is gone. Just a second. Yes, the error is gone. Now as you can see, you have to pass the data, and there is a basic syntax that how you pass the data. For example, here you will write when you code this y is basically the accept what constructor accepts this dot y. So I tell him y, and it basically what should we pass here? We want to pass the x in the y. For example, it is a basic variable that I passed in this next screen many times, and I should say most of the time you don't have to pass a single data, you have to pass a list of a data. So let's just quickly see how you pass a list, because this thing I'm telling you, this troubles a lot of coders, that how you going to pass multiple data into from one screen to another. So let's just see it is a error. So so let's just create a class, and let's call this information. Just a second. So this is a class which is an information, which has just two data types. You can have multiple data types like a URL, image URL, PDF URL, something. So let's have an integer x, and let's have a string. Let's say a string s. And this information class has a constructor. As since Manraj already told you how these classes and inheritance work when you see the Dart code. So here I'm going to create a constructor. In this constructor, I will accept these x and s both. So this dot x and this dot s. So as you can see, this is my constructor. Now I will create a list of my constructor. I am missing bracket. Yes. So now all the error are gone. So you can see the error over here. Errors and warning are shown here. So this is a list, and in the list, let me create a list of this. In the Dart, as you can see, the basic syntax for list is this. And in this list, we let's say have a two data. For example, in the list, the name is like information list. This is an information list, which basically I'm missing a bracket, curly braces. So in this list, I have a constructor over a object of the class. For example, here a constructor, I have x as, let's say, value 10, and s as string. Similarly, I have another object of the list like information. I have two things. X as, let's say, 5, and s is let's say Manraj. So basically this is a complete list. You have to put the commas here so that the list can identify there are more objects or more items in the list. So this is a basic list that I created. Now let's see let's see quickly how I pass this list over the another screen. For example, here I have a list, and let me just create this list in here inside the stateless widget itself, so that it can identify that list. And how I will pass the data, what I will do, I will first of all accept here, let's say I will accept an integer here. Okay, let's say I will accept a string, and yes, so this string is complete. Now I will write y, and I will pass the information list, and I will tap on the 0, and I will go here, use the s. So as you can see, this is the proper way to how to send multiple data. For example, if you want another data, you can just accept the list of an object. If you create this list global as a global variable, you can accept this list item here as well. If you want multiple data, you can add here like this is a string, and another, there is an int, final int, let's say it's a, and you have to create the constructor. You have to create a constructor here. Just delete this, and you will get an error. So here you will get a constructor which accept both the things y and a as arguments, and you have to pass both the things here, comma. You can you have to write x a, sorry, So A is basically a same thing, but a different. Just a second. Yes. So information list. You have to press dot, and you have to select X this time. So this is the proper way to send multiple data over the another screen. So we are going to use this in the BMI app. And this is the very useful thing. So now this app is to complete. I will run this app and I will use here as well. For example, here in the text, rather than using a demo, I can use this Y. I will use directly the Y. Now let me run this app. Till then, I will code the details of an app that we are going to code the BMI app. So all these components are required in the BMI app. So let this app building in the background. So here in the screen, we have a simple input page which has a basic scaffold. As you can see, this basic structure like column, I already coded this basic structure like column has a expanded widget which has a row which has a reusable card. Now I'm going to describe you what are the stateless and stateful widget. Till now we just worked in a stateless widget, but now let me show you where to use a stateless widget and where to use a stateful widget. This app is completely built, so let me share your screen. Just a second. Just a second. So this was the layout. This was the navigation screen I was talking about. When you press this button, the next screen will come, and here you can see the text Akash. This data is transferred from screen 1 to the screen 2. So this is important thing. We use push and pop. So now just quickly code the details. So we were on the details of the screen. So as you can see, these are the detail screen, which basically has a state is in the stateful widget. You have to use set state. So when on press, you have to use the set state function. In the set state function, you just in the set state function, you just have to select the gender as I described this gender here, which is just one for the male and two for the females. So when this button is pressed, you have to set the gender. Selected gender as one. So this is basically in the set state, because the set state will do the mark the selected gender as a dirty, because the set state inside the set state what we code is marked dirty, which the whole Flutter will notice where you use the gender, and it will notice all the changes inside this gender class. So you can here you have to add an icon. For example, here you have an icon, so you can add this icon as. So the basic syntax for an icon is very important, because all the widgets has a similar syntax. So this icon have a icon location where the icon is present. For example, here we use the font awesome library, and you use the icon as minus or the Mars, which is basically the name of this icon. This icon is has a name Mars in the font awesome library. How do I know? So when you command click this font awesome icons, you will land on this page which contain all the icon. It is I think so 5,000 or 10,000 lines of code which contain all the icon in the Flutter, which is a very awesome library. So this is a basic library which how to use icon. You can also set the height as size as 80. Just give me a second. So this is the basic icon, and also after this, this is the complete code which has some text, which is a boring part of the coding. For example, I have to code, this height. So it is a height which is a text, simple text, which has a style as a k label text. Now I will explain you what are the constant here. So in the constants file, we use some the styling constants. For example, the text style is a simpler text style. I use this k text style, which is basically a syntax to define your constants in the constant dot, which is very helpful practice, because when just a second. So now let me just quickly, since the time is almost at the end, and now just quickly code this whole screen. Just a second. So in this application, we have to code some important things, like here you have a weight text. So I will explain you how a weight text should look. Let me uncomment this. So this is a basic text which has a weight, which has a k label text style. It is a constant because many times when since you see already there is a lot of code, when you want to debug the code, it is very easy to directly change this constant when you mark this as k text style. So very similar thing, like there is a round icon button. I'm talking about these buttons. These are the two buttons. So these are the two round button, which has a very simple similar syntax. So basically, this round icon button has an icon. Here I have a plus icon or a minus icon. Here I should have a minus icon because the plus icon is already present. So it has an icon, and what it should do when it is pressed, it should reduce the weight by -1. So this is a simple property of this button with in the set state. All these are present in set state because we want to change them along the code. For example, share my screen. Just a second. Yes, in the app, as you can see, when I click the press button, the weight is changed. So this should be in the set state function. So let me stop this screen and let me resume my screen. So now, as you can see, this whole portion is very simple. It has just a text and a simple round buttons. And after that, we have a slider widget part. So as you can see, this is the repetitive part. So you have to just code once and you have to copy paste this old stuff. So here I have a slider widget, which is very similar. You can follow the basic documentation for the slider widget. For example, here I show you just a second. So for example, here I show you the slider class, which has some properties. For example, the Flutter already coded some of the properties. Here it is working. It is a simple, but we have customized it a little. For example, we change the color, we change the shape, and we define the min and max value, which are important. So this was a slider widget part. And now, as you can see, all the details are present, and there are two cards, reusable card, which is there from the very beginning, and the round icon button. As I described, it is used 4 times: 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have to extract this widget, which I extracted here and uses in the main code. So now, as you can see, all the details are almost completed. We have an error. Let's just quickly fix this error. There should not semicolon. There should be a comma. Right. So as you can see, the error is gone. There are some basic errors, like you use a comma or when to use a semicolon. So now, as you can see, all the details are present. We created the basic body structure, and then after that we created the details. And it is a challenge because since it is already Manraj will share you the link of GitHub of this project which I created, and it is a result page which is very similar. Again, scaffold, app bar with some reusable cards and text which show you the app. I already described you how to navigate between two screens. You just have to pass the data. Here I pass the data here whenever user click the button. This is the bottom button. Whenever user click on it, it will navigator dot push. It will push the screen and it will push the data. The data is calculated from the calculator dot brain dot dart file, which is very simple, just a simple calculation and just a simple text. So now you have a basic knowledge of how to create an app. Now you can also customize your customized app. You can also customize this app. You know now some the basic components like scaffold, text, buttons, widgets, stateless and stateful widgets, how to code the basic structure. And I think so after attending this event, you are good to go to make your further application in the Flutter. So if you guys have a doubt, please ask. So if you guys have a doubt, please ask. So let me stop presenting.
So with this, we are at the ending of our event. We would like to thank everyone for joining and keep patience to listen us. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you everyone for joining the session. The links have been posted in the chat box for the social media handles and the YouTube channel where the recording will be uploaded by today evening. You can check it out for further revisions or some concepts which you may have left during the lecture. And we hope to see you again in the future sessions. Have a good day. Thank you.